Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Hormonal Talk, Friday 2016. I have the honor of introducing you to Chris Testa from Tugan Compounding Chemist. The purpose of this talk today is to educate my women of the hormonal therapy and how it is made and how safe it is and whether we have the need to use it or not. So Chris is going to be here. He's going to tell us how he makes the natural hormones, because all the hormones, 10 hormones that we are going to be talking this evening are natural hormones, not the synthetic hormones made by the pharmaceutical companies. Natural hormones are the hormones very similar to the hormones produced by our own body, and I will go into that later in my talk. Now Chris is going to tell us how he makes them, how safe it is for us, and how much trust we can place upon him. Join with me to welcome Chris Testa.
Well, thank you very much. It's very exciting for me to be here tonight. I've worked with Dr Chetty for a number of years, and I'm most impressed and amazed at the amount of work she's put into her practice, the extra study, the trouble she's gone to acquire extra knowledge and expertise in this particular area. It's been within Australia and overseas, so it's quite outstanding. So that's why I find it a privilege to be here tonight. The purpose of my very brief talk, before you get on to the really interesting things, will be just to explain how your compounded products are made, so you understand. For example, if you are prescribed an antibiotic, you go into a pharmacy here, you get that antibiotic, then you fly over to Western Australia. In a week's time, you try and get the repeat for that antibiotic. You go into a pharmacy over there, you get the same product. You know with certainty that that product is high quality. It has been made in Australia or overseas in a TGA approved facility using good manufacturing practice. So you know the standard of that product from packet to packet, from tablet to tablet, or mixture mill to mill, is of a high consistent standard. The same needs to apply to compounding pharmacists. We make products from scratch. So when you come and deliver a script to the pharmacy and have something prepared by a compounding pharmacist, you need to know that that's going to have the same consistent quality approach that the major manufacturers have. And that's what I'll explain to you tonight. I'll just have a brief overview of how we conduct compounding. We're located here on the coast, so just to let you know, very close to Dr Chetty, so we're very close to everyone on the coast. The coast is a nice, easy to get around place. Just a brief overview of myself. Look, I'm a second generation compounding pharmacist. My pharmacy at Tugun, all we do is compounding. We have no retail presence, so we focus 100% on compounding. We've been complex compounding for over 20 years at this place, at Tugun, at this site. We have laboratories on the first floor of the building. Below us is a retail pharmacy, but we're on the first floor. We have within a couple of months we'll have 5 laboratories. I employ 25 staff, including 7 pharmacists, and that's all they're involved with, is compounding for patients all over Australia, New Zealand, some parts of Asia, and now we're getting inquiries from Japan, the USA, the UK. So we're very heavily involved in it. And as I said before, our laboratories are state of the art, and I'll give you a bit of an image of those laboratories in a second. But we're dedicated to a number of specialty areas, and one is bioidentical hormone replacement. And what we mean by bioidentical means the molecule of the hormone, whether it's testosterone, progesterone, one of the estrogens, that molecule is the very same molecule that nature intended. So the body can't tell the difference between the molecule it's producing or the molecule in the bioidentical hormone replacement therapy combination. Unlike some of the commercial products that have been available in the past, it's not a synthetic formulation. Our focus obviously is compounding, working with doctors, working with patients, and then focusing on a laboratory setting and making product from scratch. In terms of compounding something for you, for example, a bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, whether it's a cream, a gel, a pessary, suppository, or a capsule, we have to acquire the raw materials. So we're making it from scratch. So we have to ensure that the raw materials are pharmaceutical grade, not food grade, not animal grade. We have to make sure it complies with the highest standards in the world. It complies with our British pharmacopoeia or the American pharmacopoeia or various European pharmacopoeias that ensure that we have pharmaceutical grade raw materials. How do we do that? Well, I only purchase raw materials from Australian TGA licensed facilities. I could very easily go to China, go to India, go to Europe, go to the US, go to Canada directly and purchase off manufacturers around the world. But if I was to do that, then I would have to have very elaborate testing facilities to ensure that every batch of the product met those pharmacopoeial standards. So I only deal with Australian TGA licensed facilities to ensure I get that standard. On top of that, I actually have a testing regime within the compounding laboratories themselves. So I don't just rely on the certificates of analysis and the guarantees of these suppliers. I can't afford to test everything. It would make products too expensive, but I do have a randomised series of testing where I will test the raw materials and I will test the finished product. I test the raw materials for identification to ensure that if I'm making a cream with testosterone, it's testosterone, and it's testosterone at 99.8%, and it's in the right form that will go nicely into a cream and be absorbed into the bloodstream. I'll test the finished product to make sure it has the potency that the doctor has asked for. So we do randomised testing to check that we are dealing with quality. And then we have a whole range of processes. Making something from scratch, coming up with a consistently high quality product is not easy without the appropriate procedures and systems in place. So from beginning to end, you can expect about 8 or 9 checking processes or steps before something is completed and released to a patient. So we have a large amount of technical input at the beginning. We actually process the product. In the old days, once upon a time, all we did, we had a mortar and pestle and an ointment slab. So we'd grind powders down, mix them with the cream, put them into a jar, put a label on it, and then give you advice about how to use it. But nowadays, with technology and advances, we're able to be much more sophisticated than we ever have been. We have access to equipment that once upon a time only large-scale manufacturers could afford. So in that image there, the thing that looks like a milkshake maker, that is a electronic mortar and pestle. Very good at mixing things very quickly and at a uniform mixture. So you know that the top portion of that jar is going to have the same blend as the bottom portion of the jar. So it's a uniform blend throughout when you're using a cream. Or there's a uniform blend. I'll show you another way that we make sure there's a uniform blend within a capsule. So the first capsule you take has the same blend and potency as the last capsule. Very important. After we mix that cream in an electronic mortar and pestle, we put it through an ointment mill. And the idea of the ointment mill is that there will be small particles of powder in that cream that grinds them to a micron size. So we're grinding those particles down so they're very fine. The more grinding we do, the greater the surface area of the particle, the more rapid the dissolution and absorption through the skin into the bloodstream. So we're making sure we've got a very efficient dosage form. And then finally we package it into various forms of delivery devices. It can be something as basic as a jar with a measuring spoon to something more elaborate like a pump or an EMP jar where you can actually measure with a syringe a very, very precise dose. So that's just an example of the steps that we have to go through in making something. And as I said, our role as compounding pharmacists is to ensure quality, but more importantly, consistent quality. You want to know, and the doctor needs to know, that every time something gets compounded, it is going to be the same high quality. If the doctor prescribes 10% of this or 3% of that, she needs to know with confidence that she is getting that, because she has to make clinical decisions based on the results, the feedback that you give after you've had a period of treatment. So she needs to know with confidence that the medication has been prepared consistently at high quality. And obviously, the follow-up to that is the advice and technical support. So we focus very heavily on providing patient and practitioner information and doing a lot of research and technical information. We work with Griffith University very closely. I lecture there on a regular basis about compounding, in relation to compounding, but we set up a number of research studies with them. So we work on a number of research projects all the time. So testing our product as well as the potency of our product and the consistency and the perfection of our procedures. So we're endeavouring, just as Dr Chetty is endeavouring to improve her expertise, we're doing the same thing. As I mentioned before, we're very particular where we purchase the raw materials or the active ingredients from, which is important for you to know. You need to be able to ask any compounding pharmacy, how do they ensure the quality of their raw materials and the product that you're getting from them. As I said before, we make sure pharmaceutical grade only, our in-house testing procedure, and just as a point of interest, with our in-house testing procedure, I use a number of laboratories around Australia. I'll use the University of New South Wales if I'm doing a test to identify a particular powder, for them to say what it is and how pure it is. Well, over the last 12 months, I've rejected 3 batches of product from Australian suppliers. The first one was a specific form of folic acid. They gave me, instead of the particular form I was after, they gave me a mixed form. It had 2 or 3 forms of this ingredient in it. So instead of getting a 99% pure form that I was after, I got a 50-50. Okay, and I only found that out by testing. The testing cost me about $1,500, but I was able to reject the product. In this particular case, the company supplying it have actually changed their international testing procedure for these type of products. They've changed their protocol because the university was able to say, this is how we tested it. They compared it to their testing procedure and said, we've missed a couple of steps. So they've now implemented that internationally. Another one recently, I asked for vitamin K2, very important, cardiovascular health, osteoporosis. Well, they sent me K1. Different reason. Useless in terms of osteoporosis or cardiovascular health. So it failed identification. More recently, D-serine. I've been sourcing this product for 3 years now. I have tested 5 suppliers, and only last week I got a positive test result back. So after 3 years of trying, I finally found a supplier that can give me D-serine at the purity that I am after. So I just find that quite interesting. I find that quite astounding that I have to go to that trouble to make sure that I have quality raw materials before I even start quality procedures to actually put those together into a dosage form that works for you. So that was it. I raced through that pretty quick because you've got much more interesting things to talk about this evening. But Were there any questions that you might have about what a compounding pharmacist does, or when you go to get your product? All right. Well, I'm available this evening, and I'm available at Tugun if you have any questions down the track. All right. Thank you very much for your time.